Jessica, the Reincarnated Dog 5. By Hak Jin Kim. Jessica the Dog. As Tom proceeds, he begins to look back the days when he met Sue, who had been depressed a lot, fearing the loss of her father who was about to die of cancer. He experienced how hard it was to see Sue, who had been through the moment for the last farewell. For months she couldn't sleep well after her father's funeral. Sue's suffering may be a different story for John since he has his mother. In the evening, Tom tells Sue what he heard at school. She ponders a second and says, "I'm sorry to hear that. John and his mother are going through the same sadness that I went through." Jessica hears their conversation, thinking what they are talking about. John's grandmother is Jenny, and she might be sick. Or what? Jessica wants to see Ellen at once to know more about what's exactly happening to Jenny. Since the puppy lounge, Jessica has not seen Jenny at all. Jessica wants to run to Jenny's residence to see her, but she has to be cautious not to be seen by John. When Ellen gets home, she finds everybody's asleep, so she can't help talking to Jessica, who's staying up alone for Ellen. Jessica has been dying to hear from Ellen all day long. "Jessica, what can I do for poor John? His granny has only a few months to live," Ellen says. Jessica is stunned momentarily. At last everything is clear. "What? You are kidding me," Jessica shouts to herself. Ellen seems to hear her. "Jessica, are you crying? You look like wailing over Jenny's destiny," Ellen says. "I'm saying this because you were so happy when you were in Jenny's arms. I'm so sad, too. I'm so sorry for her and John." Ellen keeps saying, "Is there any idea for his granny? Jenny seems a successful woman. The mansion and her Porsche Carrera, and her designer clothes tell that she made a fortune a long time ago. So, she has almost everything. Then what can bring her happiness? Tell me, Jessica." "Aha! I have an idea. How about you? You can be a joy to Jenny." Jessica mumbles, "Thanks, Ellen. That sounds a great idea. I'd love to be with Jenny." Jessica begins to sway her tail vigorously. This time she also makes up her mind that she will practice drawing letters harder than ever. Next morning, everyone is out of home. Jessica sits on her bed, laying her head on her forelegs, losing interest in drawing letters due to her worrying about Jenny. She loses appetite again and stays on her bed waiting for Ellen. She feels inadequate and useless. Time seems to pass more slowly when Jessica waits for Ellen. In the evening, the family gets together at the table for supper. Jessica comes down to the kitchen and sits beside Ellen to hear about Jenny. Ellen says, "I heard Jenny decided to get chemo as her doctor suggested by visiting the hospital once a month. She will try every method she can do along with the treatment." Tom responds, "That sounds good. She needs to be strong to get well. Who knows? She'll be cured." Ellen continues to talk. "I think she'll take a yoga class and have a diet for the patient. As some survived people from cancer, she'll spend her time in the woods nearby, walking around her spacious garden." She looked calm without any surprise, saying that no one lived forever. Listening to them, Jessica recalls that Jenny was an audacious woman who never feared from anything so that she could make a fortune as a successful lawyer in the big city, Chicago. When Jenny and Andy met and had a baby, Sue, she was no one to depend on after losing both parents in a severe car crash. Jenny had no choice but to live in a youth facility, because she had no relatives who wanted to take her to their home. So she was sent to the facility. And she was smart enough to enter a college and met Andy. If Jenny has any fault in her life to be sorry, it may be the running away from first marriage with Andy. By the time Jessica recalls the past, that Jenny filed for divorce from Andy, who didn't agree to Jenny's ambition, Jessica stops thinking her past life as Andy. She just needs to concentrate on what she can do for Jenny. Several days have passed and Jessica hears Ellen's calling. "Jessica, let's go to Jenny. Maybe she'll be delightful if you show up. You know what? John didn't agree that you would stay with Jenny, even for a few minutes, because she had an allergy to animal hair. So I persuaded him, saying a poodle is okay. At last they entered Jenny's house. Jenny has a big smile on her face. And she hugs both Ellen and Jessica. She looks okay at first glance, though there is a bunch of medicine on the kitchen table. Jenny says, "I'm so glad to see both of you again. I feel great now." "Hello, Jessica, cute girl. Here are biscuits, honey." "Ellen, how thoughtful you are. I love puppies. But my allergy doesn't let me keep dogs in my house. But I heard from John Jessica would be different. So, I think Jessica can come over to me as often as she can." Even if Jenny smiles all the time, Ellen doesn't feel good while she's looking at Jenny's haggard face. After a little while, she calls Jessica. That has loitered in Jenny's master bedroom. Ellen says, "Jessica, it's time to go home. Ms. Bacon, we'd better go home for now. I think you need a rest. I'll bring Jessica whenever I have time after school." Jenny says, "Yep. I'd better take a nap today. I'm tired a little. We'll see tomorrow." On the way back home, Jessica plans how to get to Jenny during the day, since she has visited several times before. The next day the sun rises and it's time to go to Jenny's house. Perhaps Jenny may wait for Jessica to come to see her. So Jessica is in a hurry to run to her. In the bedroom, Jenny alone lies flat on her bed like a dead woman. Jessica's blood runs cold. She crawls up Jenny's bed and smells her licking her hand. An hour after Jessica lies next to her, she opens her eyes. She says, "Oh, Jessica. You're here again. How can you come here by yourself? How long have you been with me? I fell asleep because of medicine. You're a sweet girl. You're so caring. Now I feel better. Let's go downstairs." As soon as they get to the kitchen, Jenny makes a dish of steak for both. She's seated in the wooden chair and Jessica next to her. It's a fabulous feast to Jessica. All of a sudden Jessica feels the past, like Andy was having a meal with Jenny. Checking Jessica's plate, Jenny says, "Jessica, are you done? Let's take a walk." Jessica comes back to reality. And she hops down and heads to the door. Jenny and Jessica start to walk side by side to the forest nearby. Since Jenny starts to have cancer treatment, she has reduced her legal burden in her law firm, which she established a long time ago. Since Jessica visits her around 11 a.m. every morning, she becomes Jenny's companion, sharing many things. As Jenny tells about her life in Chicago, Jessica finds out that Jenny went to law school on a full scholarship and got a job at authoritative law firm. Some years later she established her own firm. She had lived intensely, and yet missed her ex-husband and Sue. But she has never got in touch with Sue. Andy also had never wanted to know about Jenny's life after the divorce, since he felt so betrayed by Jenny, who focused on pursuing her career in a metropolitan area. Now as a living creature which happens to get a chance one more time, Jessica becomes aware that it was really stupid for Andy not to follow Jenny. He was too meek to take a risk in his life. It was a wrong choice for both Jenny and Sue. One morning when Jessica visits Jenny, Jessica draws a letter, J, in front of Jenny, who seems busy making lunch. Jenny doesn't pay attention to Jessica because there is no mark on the floor. While eating, Jessica thinks of the socks as a tool to let the letter visible. After lunch they go out to walk around the big garden in the back of her house. Jenny says, "This is a lovely garden, isn't it?" Jessica, "Since Kevin died of plane crash, I rarely came out from the house. I was at work or home. Kate has always been busy at work like me since she left her ex-husband, who had an affair with his secretary. What do you think of me, Jessica? I'm a pathetic and lonely old woman. I think I deserve it. Life ends pathetic one way or another. Is that right?" Jenny's mouth twists into a wry smile. That leaves Jessica heartbroken, but there's nothing she can do for Jenny,